3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Rosenthal with you on this Wednesday. Here's what's happening. We're looking at lots of sunshine, blue sky. It'll be mild and dry, temps at least 50. Overnight, clouding up with rain moving in late at night, lows by morning about 36. And for tomorrow, it's occasional rain gradually ending during the afternoon. It's mild, temperatures near 50. On Friday, a mixture of sun clouds, windy, along with falling temperatures. On the Money Matters Radio Network, I'm Mark Rosenthal.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's A-U.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered. Mike, first one that most people have, how do you actually become eligible for Medicare?
Vast majority of us, you turn 65, and there's a special window that becomes open to you when you are turning 65 for you to sign up for Medicare. And important here because you really do have to sign up. Even if you might not be using the coverage in the way you planned, there's a 7-month window, 3 months before the month you were born, 3 months after, and the month of your birth that you have to sign up for Medicare, and you need to get in there and do so. Otherwise, if you're disabled, you are potentially eligible for Medicare, but for most of us, it's that 65th birthday.
What are the different parts of Medicare, actually?
Yeah, so the Part A basic piece is just your hospital insurance coverage. Most people don't pay for this. This is part of the benefits, and it'll cover inpatient hospital stays, skilled nursing facility care, etc. Hospice care, for example, is in there. Then you get into Parts B, C, and D, and that's where you get into more complex stuff. But your Part B is your medical insurance. Part C is your Medicare Advantage plans, and then Part D is an important one when you're retired as well, your prescription drug coverage, and that's where getting a professional involved there to help you consult on what you might need given your specific health needs is important.
The guide is titled Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered, and it discusses these topics as well as a host of other ones. How do you request it? Call 800-393-4001. That phone number again to request the guide is 800-393-4001 for the guide Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Estate and asset protection are the keys to a successful retirement. Cushing & Dolan's new guide is called Back to the Basics. It contains a simple blueprint that will help you create a retirement plan that protects your assets from probate and the nursing home, while also giving you guidance about how to create your will and set up your beneficiaries so that your family's financial security is intact as you get older. If you haven't done your planning yet, or need a second look at your existing plan, call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new guide called Back to the Basics. There are many necessary elements that you'll need to include to give you the peace of mind you want as you prepare for your later years. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Paul Lane and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Paul Lane and Marc Fandetti.
Welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Financial Exchange. Finally, for the first time in the last 5 sessions, the U.S. stock markets, S&P 500, Dow Jones, are now in positive territory after the prior 5 sessions were in negative territory. Paul Lane, Tucker Silva, and Marc Fandetti here with you as we look into our Wednesday show. Certainly big news coming later this afternoon that we'll talk about later in the show. Nvidia is going to be reporting its earnings after the close of the bell today. We also had several companies report some of their earnings before the bell today, including Lowe's, GM, and others. But we're going to start the show by taking more of a larger picture view on the state of the U.S. economy, but specific to how consumers feel about it. And oftentimes, Mark, we can review data that comes out in terms of investor sentiment, which I don't put a lot of stock into as to whether or not investors feel bearish or bullish, because oftentimes the overall consensus of retail investors can be misguided. You know, that old adage of when others are greedy, be fearful. When, you know, others are when others are fearful, be greedy. Or
no, you got it. I think that's right.
You know what I'm going at. Basically, the retail investor sentiment.
No,
not
I don't
that,
actually. No, of course. Yeah, you're right.
Not that serious.
You're absolutely
but,
right. Yeah.
But when it comes to inflation expectations, that is something that is more critical.
Yeah,
and
when others are fearful, be really fearful is the
exactly.
motto there.
Thanks for bringing me home there. But basically, this idea, we've seen several reports come out recently, not all of them, but several that have indicated that consumer confidence has dropped. There was a report that came out from the Conference Board on Tuesday, which indicated I believe 6 or 7% drop in consumer confidence. These are surveys that are done to try and gauge just how people feel about the U.S. economy. And it was noteworthy from what we saw on the Conference Board survey, as well as the data that we get on a monthly basis from the University of Michigan survey. So we start our show today by sort of diving into that. And perhaps that was responsible for some of the market uneasiness that we've seen over the course of the last couple of days. So perhaps, Mark, you could speak to this idea of how inflation and the expectations behind it from you and I and other consumers out there can be sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
In the 1970s, to give you the history of this if you want it, and we've got a little bit of time, so why not get into it, I guess. It used to be thought that there was an exploitable trade-off between unemployment or output generally, growth, and inflation. It used to be thought that policymakers could print money, fool people essentially. They would mistake the increase in economic activity that results from printing money and keeping interest rates low with real increases in the economy's ability to provide goods and services. So in the 1960s, policymakers were recommending that this trade-off, this perceived trade-off, be exploited. We learned, though, in the 1970s that people eventually catch up. You can't fool all the people all the time. They start to demand wage increases, and firms start to set next year's prices anticipating a higher rate of inflation. It was at this point that the great Milton Friedman and others, but Milton Friedman is associated most closely, I think, with this idea that inflation expectations matter, that there's a natural rate of unemployment, there's a natural rate of economic growth, and you can't push the economy beyond its natural rate of growth or below its natural rate of unemployment indefinitely without accelerating not just high inflation, but growing inflation. That's what the experience of the 1970s taught us. Not every economist agrees with that encapsulation of with that conclusion, with that summary and conclusion, I should say. But most would agree with some version of it, I think. So since then, policymakers have been acutely aware of expectations. They can become self-fulfilling as people ask for higher wages and firms ask for higher prices.
Exactly. And so if we look back over the course of the last couple of months, basically what we've seen is there was a tremendous surge of optimism when Trump was elected into office because of potential efforts to deregulate, tax cuts, and things like that were things that were spoken about quite frequently. Now what has kind of garnered a lot of national headline attention is much talk about tariffs and potential immigration crackdown, but specific to what we cover on a daily basis, the economy, is tariffs. And so there is this place that we find ourselves in where, you know, the markets still, to be fair, with all this are up in positive territory 2 months into the year, but there is weakening sentiment from consumers out there because there are some of these concerns. The inflation report is probably the biggest one. Now, I'll say the important caveat that we had a January inflation report that Mark and I covered on this show where it was hotter than anticipated. Inflation was running at 3% year over year. That has been talked about a lot on our show and other programs over the course of the last couple of weeks.
That's an important point to make. This administration, which has to deal with this problem now, because that's why it got elected, to deal with this problem, so stop complaining about it. I know the texts are going to come in. Stop dumping on the Trump administration, but stop complaining. It's why you got elected. Now, in fairness to them, though, they inherited this problem. Core inflation, underlying inflation is a broader synonym for that, remains elevated. The current administration did not create that problem, but tariffs could exacerbate it. Stimulative fiscal policy could exacerbate it. These are the same mistakes the last administration made. Biden inherited underlying inflation going up because of all the stimulus that was pumped into a COVID-constrained economy under the prior administration. So Biden inherited elevating, not not extreme, not even noticeable at that point to most people. And then he made it a lot worse. My fear is the current administration is going to make the same mistake. They inherited a potentially dicey inflation situation, and they're about to fuel the fire. And it seems with tariffs, with stimulative fiscal policy, and with things that reduce the economy's ability to supply goods and services. And it seems like consumers might be catching on.
Those are the concerns right now. You hit on all of the important ones that that investors and consumers are concerned about, that these potential policies could lead to the furthering of inflation. But it's really important to note, for both political administrations, they are not the end-all be-all when it comes to inflation. And I can't reiterate that point enough, that if you look at the pie chart of, how much responsibility should we assign to the political administration as to its impact on inflation, I don't know what percentage you'd put it at, but maybe 25%.
Well, I'll tell you how economists think about this. In the long run, inflation is almost exclusively monetary.
Right.
In the long run, said differently, and this gets a little bit technical, and I didn't get it for a long time, but I need to say it because it's correct. Inflation happens in the long run because prices ultimately adjust. It's the fact that not all prices adjust in the short run. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit and try to simplify this and not confuse myself. Inflation happens because some prices adjust more quickly. Some prices, say, rise more quickly than others fall. If oil prices go up, the price of everything else, we all know this, doesn't immediately go down.
Yep.
The price of everything else doesn't immediately go down. You have less money in your pocket because oil prices went up. You're spending more on it. Shouldn't the price of everything else go down? Why doesn't that happen? I'm spending less on everything else. I just spent a lot more on natural gas or home heating oil. Those other prices are sticky. That's what causes inflation in the short run. In the long run, those prices all adjust. So inflation is just monetary. So I'm not making any different a point, Paul, than you just made, which is in the long run, inflation is the Fed's fault, if you like. It's their problem. Right. In the short run, it's a little bit more complex. But I would agree that there's nothing that policymakers can do about sticky prices in the short run, in the very short run.
The eggs point is just a great quick example to use. There's no impact that they can really have in the short run to make any sort of change to egg prices. What they can dictate a political administration, fiscal policy, regulatory and trade policies, and who is appointed at the Federal Reserve. Those are the things that are in their control. And we sit at a point right now where there is, like I said, some uncertainty out there from investors and consumers as to where inflation goes. I think a lot of this could be negated by what I don't know what the report's going to look like, but we're going to get another inflation report, a couple weeks into March here. And if that report indicates that perhaps that January data was a one-off, then that will do a lot to assuage some of these doubts that people have on inflation. We need to see a consistent trend. And to be fair to the January report, there was a couple months of data prior to that did point to inflation being a little bit stickier, but we'll have to see more data come through.
Oh, yeah, this problem didn't just reemerge.
Right.
It's been a persistent gnawing problem for years.
Yep.
And credit the Trump administration for going out and trying to buy eggs, because they are feeding into inflation expectations right now. I thought that was sort of a clever solution. They went to Turkey or something to buy eggs. I don't know how much that'll help the problem in the short term, but anything at all to reduce pressure and help keep inflation expectations at bay should be helpful on the margin.
Taking a look around at markets, all still in positive territory, with the S&P 500 up about 0.75% and the Dow Jones up over 180 points. We're going to take a quick break here on the Financial Exchange, where when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about higher prices and inflation and the Fed, as well as the Ukraine agreeing to a mineral rights deal with the U.S. That's right after this break here on the Financial Exchange.
Get up-to-the-minute market updates with Wall Street Watch, weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Medicare provides health coverage for millions of Americans, but it's a challenging program. Being aware of its many complexities is crucial to your health care plans for later life. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our new guide is called Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered. In it, we'll help you learn about the basics, including enrollment periods, costs, and coverage options, as well as more complicated issues like filing claims and appeals and planning for long-term care. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and request your free guide today. There are many resources available to help you understand your options and rights under Medicare. Ask for our free guide and learn more so that you can make the most informed decisions for your health care. And you can get it by calling 800-393-4001. Again, that number is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Oh, what a night. Join me on Sunday, March 2nd for the 29th Annual Ellie Fund Red Carpet Gala at the Omni Boston Seaport Hotel. Hi, this is Candy O'Terry, honored to accept the Ellie Fund's Ellie Popkin Award with WCVB's Karen Holmes Ward. from this beloved nonprofit devoted to breast cancer patients and their families. elefund.org. That's elefund.org. And don't forget to wear pink.
The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, and if you act now, you can take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and get a $250 per person airline credit when you book a minimum 5-night stay at participating hotels. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2025 to reserve your trip today. Take your next vacation to St. Croix in America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2025 to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Coming back from break here, in the previous segment, we were talking about inflation and just some of the data that we've received recently, whether it be from the University of Michigan survey or the Consumer Board of Confidence. Consumer Board released a report on the confidence that U.S. consumers have on the economy. Those have scaled back a little bit, as we were mentioning. Inflation expectations have risen the most since we saw in a month of since 2021 in the month of February. And in terms of the bond market, we've got the U.S. 10-year Treasury at the moment sitting at 4.31%. So perhaps a little surprising that, you have more concerns about longer-term inflation, but U.S. 10-year Treasury coming down a little bit. Some have argued that was a flock to safety that brought down some of the yields, but that's been an interesting dynamic that I've
And we
witnessed.
have, thankfully, data on what portion of the decline in interest rates so far this month, and I'll use the 10-year Treasury for context and for specifics here, that yield is down about 0.25%. Sometimes we put that into finance jargon and call it 25 so-called basis points. A basis point is just 1/100th of 1/100th, or 1% of 1%. if you ever wondered what that jargon means.
I never know why we do those things. I think finance, we love to make things
sound more mysterious and like
harder than it actually
is. We're adding value. Oh, don't try to do this yourself, Mr. Investor. You didn't even know what a basis point was. You poor rube. Of course, there's no reason.
I'll never forget the first time I heard that. I was sitting there in my career, just being like, "What the heck is going on?" And then you learn what it is. It's just like saying 0.25%.
It's 0.0. If a percent is 0.01, a basis point is 0.0001.
Anyway,
it's a
we
percent
digress.
of a percent. If you're interested, just I'm gonna call it a quarter of a percentage point is the total decline in treasuries. We could break that out between expected inflation and so-called real yields. We do that using Treasury inflation-protected securities. That's one of the cool things about them. In addition to being a handy diversifier, depending on your objectives, they also allow finance people to draw conclusions about exactly what's happening in the bond market. And the vast majority of the drop so far in yields this month is in real yields. It's so not expected inflation, that's not reduced inflation or price increase expectations that's driving it, but perhaps concerns about economic activity. There are any number of explanations for why real yields, and this is not a perfectly airtight conclusion, but it's a reasonable one. There are lots of potential explanations, but the strongest is probably economic growth jitters, and those are validated by some of these sentiment surveys, which some people deride as being soft and stuff,
right?
But they actually help forecasters improve their predictions, which is why firms and the conference board spend a lot of money to produce them.
Ukraine agrees to a mineral rights deal with the United States. This will be officially signed in on Friday. Initially, the U.S. had demanded for $500 billion in potential revenue from the development of Ukraine's mineral resources. The deal has since been revised. The specifics of it aren't fully released at this point. We should get more information on that on Friday. Ukraine, we have, of course, paid, I believe, about $100 billion in our support to the country during the war over the last couple of years, and a good portion of that, of course, going to military aid. In terms of Ukraine, they have a lot of natural resources that, on the mineral side of things, that we would find useful for cell phones and all sorts of other different products out there. Lithium, graphite, and titanium are three that people would at least be familiar with those types of minerals, and 20 of the 50 minerals that the U.S. considers critical are found in Ukraine. The small caveat there is that 40% of those deposits are now sitting in Russian-occupied territory. So there's certainly some work to be done.
And that's a wrinkle.
Yeah, a big wrinkle. And there's certainly some work to be done. Both, we have to hear the final specifics on this deal. There's going to need to be some investment in order to, unearth those mineral resources, and, all of this is going to take time. So other than that, I'm certainly not an expert in the mineral rights deal space, but that is something that is noteworthy. No. Chuck might have some sort of capacity in that realm, but my sweet spots are a lot smaller in range of economic knowledge. Doesn't extend to mineral rights, but it's noteworthy from an economic perspective.
Yeah, not a lot of detail at this point.
Yeah.
I'll say only that $500 billion may sound like a lot, and we're hearing a lot of big numbers out of Washington lately, and they're all settling on $500 billion. Apple's making a $500 billion investment.
Right.
SoftBank made a $500 billion investment. What's the right number to attach to the value this year? Oh, I don't know. What's top of mind? $500 billion.
Trillions of dollars.
These reserve estimates come from Soviet-era surveys, so take it for what it's worth. I'm not saying that Ukraine is not blessed with plentiful resources. What I'd love to hear, we never heard it from Joe Biden. We haven't heard it yet from Donald Trump. Why are we there? Beyond expropriating mineral rights. Why are we there? Why are we backing them? Why is it important to American interests? Neither president has made a case. Maybe Trump's still figuring his views out. It sounds like he might be. We've not yet heard a compelling case for why we're spending money and time there. I'd love to hear that. I think the American people deserve it. The last administration didn't do it. This one so far hasn't done it. I don't think it's just for mineral rights.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. Make the case. Because it's gonna cost it. We have to defend those rights, presumably, one way or the other. So now we're getting entangled in Ukraine's future. What, indefinitely?
Let's go to our mineral rights expert, Paul Lane. Here are my thoughts.
But $500 billion, Paul's not a lot. Our GDP is $30 trillion.
Yeah.
That's a 500 with 9 zeros versus a 30 with 12 zeros. That might not sound like a big gap, but it's it's quite a bit larger. It's a drop in the bucket.
Another potential tariff that could be under consideration. Trump is announcing an inquiry that could lead to tariffs on copper. The U.S. imported 45% of its copper and consumed 17 billion of copper in 2024. Over the last decade, U.S. copper production has dropped about 20%. So that is really the focus behind this. Again, this is just an inquiry, so no news on potential tariffs just yet. We're going to take a quick break here on the Financial Exchange, but when we come back, we're going to be doing Wall Street Watch and Ask Todd. Have your questions ready. Our studio line, 888-205-2263. Ask Todd is right after this break.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about the basics of estate planning. Todd, what happens if you don't have a healthcare proxy in place and your spouse needs nursing home care?
So this is a basic document that we don't talk about as much as we should. It allows you to appoint somebody else to make a medical decision for you. And by the way, it's not just one medical decision. It could be any number of things, from prescription drugs to doing a surgery. And yes, the most important one, which is, hey, if all hope is lost, I don't want to, be on a machine. But that's the basics, and you do need it for that. But the bigger point is, if you enter a nursing home and you don't have one of these, you're not going to be able to admit them. You're going to have to go get a guardianship in order to admit them to the nursing home, because they're not going to allow you to do that. So very important that you have one for that. Now, guardianships are time-consuming and expensive. You got to hire a lawyer. You got to go through a lot of nonsense, right? If you have this basic document, which you should have for anyway, just for your basic purposes, having it not only for those reasons, but to help you get into a nursing home if you need to, is essential.
Learn how you can avoid probate, eliminate estate taxes, keep your money in your family, and protect your assets from the nursing home. Request the brand new guide from Cushing & Dolan. It's called Back to the Basics. 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years. Call 866-848-5699 or request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are bouncing back, looking to snap their 4-day losing streak as Wall Street eagerly awaits a big earnings report from Nvidia due out after today's close. Right now, the Dow is up by about 0.5% or 202 points, or 207 points, S&P 500 is up about 0.75% or 43 points, and the NASDAQ up nearly 1% higher or 189 points. Russell 2000 up 1.25% or 27 points. 10-year Treasury yield is flat now at 4.30%, and crude oil also flat, trading just below $69 a barrel. Lowe's posted better than expected fourth quarter earnings and revenue this morning, where the home improvement retailer said its full year total sales could see modest growth. That stock up by 2%. Meanwhile, shares in Super Microcomputer jumping by 22% after the tech company met the NASDAQ's listing deadline to report financial results for the most recent fiscal year to the SEC, bringing it back into compliance with reporting requirements. Elsewhere, GM shares up by 6% after the automaker announced an increase of its quarterly dividend by 25% to 15 cents per share. Sticking with auto, where Stellantis shares down by 3% after the Jeep parent company reported a 70% drop in full-year profit and also gave a cautious outlook for growth and profitability this year. Eli Lilly said it will invest at least $27 billion to build 4 new manufacturing sites in the U.S. as demand for its weight loss and diabetes injections soars and the company develops new drugs. That stock up over 1%. BP said it would boost oil and gas production and sharply cut clean energy investment, pivoting back to fossil fuels. That stock down by 2%. And TGX shares up by 2% after the parent company to Marshalls and Home Goods beat earnings and revenue expectations for the previous quarter. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
It is Wednesday, so it's time for Ask Todd. If you have any questions in the estate planning realm, whether it's regarding estate taxes, probate, trusts, give our studio line a call at 888-205-2263. Again, that phone number for any of your estate planning questions, 888-205-2263. Todd, how are we doing today?
I am never better, and you?
Doing well. Todd, recently I came across a piece where Trust and Will, a company out there, did a survey where 82% of Americans recognized that there was an importance behind estate planning, but only 31% of them actually had a will as a result of this survey. So my question to you is, what are some factors out there that people should consider as to whether or not an estate plan is something that they should think about, whether it's age, their economics behind their family? What are some of the factors that you'd ask people to sort of think about before going down this road?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, those statistics you throw out there, that it's like everybody knows it's important. But let's face it, for all of us, it's the easiest thing in the world to put off. Right? Why do I want to talk about death and taxes? It's not fun.
It's not sexy.
I make it fun. Come on. It's fun. Death and taxes can be fun. So, but it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not easy to talk about. But I would say there's really a laundry list of things. But if we group it, I would say, young people, like yourself. Younger people may not have, $13 million of assets to worry about federal estate tax, or maybe even, $2 million in Massachusetts, although it's easy to get there with a house and some other assets you don't think about. And life insurance puts you right over the top. But it's more about if they have young children.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you have young children, I think at the end of the day, forget the taxes and the probate so much. That's important. But, they can't own anything. And so if they can't own anything, then I don't want some guardian in my will. Well, first of all, you need a will at a bare minimum if you're not going to do anything as a young family member, just because that's who appoints the guardian. So, but I also would not want the guardian to be in owning all of my stuff. I would say, why not have a trust own my stuff and put a trustee that I like or trust in that position, because then they have a fiduciary obligation to manage the money a certain way, use the real estate a certain way, but they don't own it. The trust owns it. So, and then that would be providing for my children as they grow up over time. I can stagger the distributions. I can control how they get it, when they get it. And so I think that's a reason for young people. Next group would be, we're older now. Kids have moved out. We might have grandkids. And, we're in our 60s. Well, we have stuff now. So if we have stuff now, we're more worried about, estate taxes, whether it be federal or state. We're worried about probate. We're, worried about staying in control and taking care of the family with a bloodline distribution. So those would be typical reasons as we get, a little older. And if we're, in our mid-60s or so, and we're saying, well, maybe I don't have a federal estate tax problem. Maybe now I need to think about nursing homes. Well, if I'm 65 and I can get a 5-year waiting period going and have all my assets protected by the time I'm 70 and it's in my rearview mirror, well, that might not be a bad idea either. So I need to understand how the irrevocable trust works so that I can see if I can live with it and get my stuff not only protected from the nursing home, but also avoiding probate and taxes and bloodline planning. So lots of reasons to do it. And I think another group would just be, hey, I just got kids and I don't want to go into their future spouses.
Right.
There's plenty of things to think about in controlling these things, controlling these assets from the grave and even skipping taxes by getting it to the grandchildren. So I think those are all different walks of life that would give you reason to say, yeah, let's figure out how to do this.
Absolutely. A lot of good information there. We're talking here with Todd Lutsky from Cushing & Dolan. If you have any questions pertaining some of the subjects that he just talked about, whether it's regarding estate taxes, trust work, probate avoidance, all those types of things, give our studio line a call at 888-205-2263. Again, that phone number for any questions for Todd Lutsky, 888-205-2263. We're going to take a quick break here on the Financial Exchange. When we come back, we'll have your questions with Todd right after this.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025. If you're nearing retirement age and are concerned about how to protect your assets, you need to call Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law. Their new guide is called Back to the Basics, and it will help you create a plan that will help you understand issues like avoiding probate, passing your assets along to your family, and potentially eliminating your estate taxes. This free guide has all the information you need to build a safe and secure estate plan that will give you peace of mind as you close in on retirement. Call 866-848-5699 right now and request your free guide today. You can also request a no-obligation consultation to review any current planning you've done. Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for 30 years. Let them help you too. Get their new guide called Back to the Basics today. Call 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Understanding the costs of Medicare can be complicated. Hi, this is Chuck Zada from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Medicare was originally a 2-part program, but is now 4 parts, and making sure you know what you're eligible for and how much you'll need to pay is key to having the right healthcare coverage as you get older. Medicare is divided among parts A, B, C, and D, all of which have different premiums, deductibles, and coinsurance. Our new guide called Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered, can help you learn about these issues and others, such as whether Medicare pays for long-term care. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group at 800-393-4001 and request your free guide today so you can determine which plan works best for you. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Todd Lutsky answers your questions about estate and elder life planning every Wednesday at 10:30, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
We are back here with Todd Lutsky from Cushing & Dolan for our weekly segment of Ask Todd. If you have any questions in the estate planning realm regarding probate avoidance, trust, wills, anything of that nature, give our studio line a call at 888-205-2263. Again, that number for any of your questions, 888-205-2263. Todd, you've obviously had a tremendous amount of experience in the industry, and you've seen probably the benefits of estate planning being done properly over the course of families' lives playing out, but also some pitfalls as well. Are there any instances that come to mind recently where you found a situation where not the proper work was not done and that caused a tremendous issue for heirs of a family?
Yeah, I think that when you ask a question like that, it's more like, okay, I got to get my estate plan in order, which, by the way, is what we're talking about with our guide this month. It's back to the basics. I want to get started. I want to figure out how to do my estate plan. So, I think picking a lawyer in that regard is part of that equation. And how do I go about picking one? Because when you draft documents, it's very important that they're drafted properly. So there's an interesting case out there now where a family had some estate planning documents prepared, and the parents have passed away, and there were actually 5 kids. And as you might imagine, the kids aren't all getting along, which, by the way, is another reason to do your estate plan, right? You got to be clear in terms of what your wishes are and keep the kids at bay. So it was very interesting. It had really only a piece of property in the trust. That was their biggest asset. It was like, I don't know, $500,000-$600,000. It wasn't a huge property, but it was sold before they died. And the document says this particular property, XYZ, is supposed to go 1/4 to each of 4 kids. Now there's 5 kids.
Right.
1 kid is the trustee. So A, B, C, and D are to get 1/4 of this property located at XYZ. And then it says, however, if there's other assets in the trust, they are to go 1/5. So that's the 5th child is now included. And then it says, with regard to the 5th child is to get none of the real estate, but 1/5 of the other assets. Oh, seems clear, but it's not, because why? Real estate was sold before they died. So there's no real estate in the trust. There's only other assets. So the kids are saying, no, you don't get any, because the money that's in there is only the money from the sale of the property, and that's ours. No, that's not what the document says. The document says you get the real estate. Doesn't say
not
anything.
real estate anymore because it's sold, right?
It's money. It doesn't say anything about money. In fact, it does. It says the other assets, which would be money, is to go 5 ways. And so now the trustee is in a position where I'm saying, well, what do I need to do? What do? You do a declaratory judgment, and you go to the court and you say, court, I need you to tell me how to do this as trustee, which would be the client we would represent, saying, I don't want to violate my fiduciary responsibility and give the money to the wrong people. I need you to clarify for me what this means. That's not a problem. But the other kids are all upset about that. Yet there's a no contest clause in the will, in the document, that says if anyone challenges the trust or prevents the terms of the document from being executed properly, they immediately lose. So I'd say there's really no downside here. I say bring the declaratory judgment action, get your guidance from the court, and if they give you any grief, I think they violate the no contest clause. So it's still good. It's not really a bad story. It's a good story. A little bad on the drafting, but at the end of the day, having language in there is going to ensure the donor's intent is satisfied here. And that's really what this is all about. We just want to make sure that your wishes are taken care of. So interesting case. Bad drafting, but I think at the end of the day, the donor's wishes are going to be satisfied. And, of course, the estate planning was done well. So, folks, if you want to get your estate planning in order, get started. You've never known where to start. You're not sure how to begin. This Back to the Basics guide is really wonderful. As we approach the end of the month, folks, it's a guide where it's basically my legal recommendation to a made-up family and made-up facts and numbers. And you could actually put your own family in here and say, hey, does this actually a legal recommendation that works for my family? But it also explains the basic documents from health cares to powers of attorney, etc., to the trust that was recommended in this particular case, which was an irrevocable trust. And it explains all about how it works, from taxes to bloodline planning to control while you're living. Folks, get your estate plan in order. Figure out how to begin the process. Get the guide, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
We're going to go to the phones. We've got Dee from New Hampshire on. What is your question for Todd?
Hi, Todd. Thank you. My mother has I live in New Hampshire. She lives in Massachusetts. She has a piece of property. It's an old camp up on the lake in New Hampshire. She has put the property into a irrevocable trust with my brother being the trustee.
Okay.
And the thing was, my husband and I were supposed to, we're the ones that take care of the camp, do all the spending of everything to take care of it. And she wants to sell it to us. But now that it's in an irrevocable trust, we can't do that. Is that right?
No, that's not right. I mean, I haven't read the document. I would certainly have to read the document. But any irrevocable trusts that we would ever draft certainly give the trustee the power to sell the property. So and as long as it's sold for fair market value, I don't think the trust would be prohibited in terms of who it sells it to. Like, let's say I wanted to buy it. The trustee should be able to say, yeah, I'm going to sell you, Todd, the camp. And then I give, whatever it's worth. Here's $500,000, and I put that $500,000 into the trust. So the trust still has the asset. It's just now money and not real estate. And that money would still be held for the benefit of the family the way that your mom wants it to go. So I don't know why somebody is telling you that it can't be done. Again, I haven't read the document, but as long as the trustee has the power to sell the property, which I suspect they do, you could buy it. My question is, why do you want to buy it? Why not just inherit it?
Because we have a house that we are selling, and it's my understanding that once we sell this house for capital gains, that we should buy something else.
So is the house you have your primary residence?
Yes.
So you get a $500,000 exclusion when you sell your primary residence if you've owned and used it as your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years. There is no requirement to buy another piece of property at all. So your tax savings is not driven by you buying another piece of property.
Oh, okay.
See,
Alrighty.
People just need to get the right advice. You're acting under, unfortunately, misinformation. So sell your house, buy if you want to buy, but it has no bearing on buying another piece of property. And therefore, again, I'm back to the idea, why do we need to sell the house? Why not just wait around and maybe inherit it, right? Is there any other reason you would need to own the house now?
Yeah, we want to move out of this, out of the state, and it's a convoluted situation. Mm-hmm. We have the house. We want to buy the camp so that we can build our permanent house.
Okay.
At the camp.
Is the trustee willing to sell?
I think so. We haven't approached him yet. I know my mom said that she had actually given us a price, of what she would sell it to us for.
Mm-hmm. Well, be careful. You might want to do fair market value so as not to upset siblings, so that everybody's treated equally. And then you may need to adjust the language of the trust after you buy the house. Are you still getting a piece of what's in there? I don't know. But check with your mom on that, but check with the trustee. I'm going to venture to guess that this trust does have the power to sell. So let the trustee sell you the property if that's what you want. But remember, you're not doing it because there's any tax savings for you. So hopefully that helped a little. And these are kind of questions that are really wonderful because people sometimes get misinformation, but hopefully I've straightened things out for her.
That was fantastic, Todd. Thank you so much for your time this week. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Taking a look around at markets, we've got the Dow Jones up over about 200 points. The S&P 500 is up close to 50 points or 0.8%, and the NASDAQ is rallying quite a bit, up over 1%. All eyes will be on Nvidia as they will report their earnings after the close of the market today. We'll have a full recap of those earnings on tomorrow morning's show, and then to kick off our second hour, we'll also be previewing those Nvidia earnings and what to expect come 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's all the time that we have for the first hour here on the Financial Exchange, but stick with us. We got a lot more to cover right after this break.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much, and they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Protecting your assets is the key key to a sound estate plan. Cushing & Dolan's new guide is called Back to the Basics, and in it, you'll learn how to protect your assets from probate and potentially eliminate your estate taxes. Call 866-848-5699 right now and ask for your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered. Mike, first one that most people have: how do you actually become eligible for Medicare?
Vast majority of us, you turn 65, and there's a special window that becomes open to you when you are turning 65 for you to sign up for Medicare. And important here because you really do have to sign up. Even if you might not be using the coverage in the way you planned, there's a 7-month window, 3 months before the month you were born, 3 months after, and the month of your birth, that you have to sign up for Medicare, and you need to get in there and do so. Otherwise, if you're disabled, you are potentially eligible for Medicare, but for most of us, it's that 65th birthday.
What are the different parts of Medicare, actually?
Yeah, so the Part A basic piece is just your hospital insurance coverage. Most people don't pay for this. This is part of the benefits, and it'll cover inpatient hospital stays, skilled nursing facility care, etc. Hospice care, for example, is in there. Then you get into Parts B, C, and D, and that's where you get into more complex stuff. But your Part B is your medical insurance. Part C is your Medicare Advantage plans, and then Part D is an important one when you're retired as well, your prescription drug coverage, and that's where getting a professional involved there to help you consult on what you might need given your specific health needs is important.
The guide is titled Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered, and it discusses these topics as well as a host of other ones. How do you request it? Call 800-393-4001. That phone number again to request the guide is 800-393-4001 for the guide Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Paul Lane and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Paul Lane and Marc Fandetti.
Welcome to the second hour of the Financial Exchange. Paul Lane, Marc Fandetti, and Tucker Silva here with you as we head into the second hour of the show and about an hour and a half into the trading day. All the U.S. major market indices are in positive territory, with the Dow Jones up close to 0.5%. The S&P 500 little shy of up 1%, and the NASDAQ is up over 1.3%. And we'll start right there. As I mentioned before our prior break, Nvidia is set to report its earnings at the close of the bell. this afternoon, and we'll have coverage of that earnings report on tomorrow's show. But options markets are indicating that we could perhaps see an 8.5% move in either direction, either up or down, depending on what comes out from this most recent earnings report. The reason why this is so important and the reason why we speak about Nvidia so much is twofold. One, Nvidia has been the major driver behind the AI trade over the course of the last couple of years. Its performance has really buoyed the S&P 500 significantly off back-to-back years of over 20% returns. Nvidia is responsible for a significant amount of those gains. It now holds a weighting in the S&P 500. I'm doing this off the top of my head, Mark, but I believe it's in or around 6 or 7%. Yeah, 6%.
That was my only contribution in this.
And I stole it.
That's all right.
It's now.
I should have known. You're pretty thorough.
It's now up to 6% weighting in the S&P 500, so it's significant, and that's the reason why we spend time talking about it.
And an 8% move could move the entire market by 0.5%. I'm rounding up a little bit. So whether or not you own it directly, if you have an index, a so-called index fund that calls itself an S&P 500 fund, or a large cap index fund in your 401k, it does matter, as would a report from any of the big weighted stocks in the S&P, the biggest market cap weighted companies, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, etc.
The reason why this report is important, other than the size and impact that Nvidia has on the markets, is also some regarding some issues specific to the AI industry in general. In late January, we had the release of DeepSeek, which is the AI model that spun out of a Chinese hedge fund that had been releasing models for the course of, it's only, I believe, a year and a half in development, the DeepSeek in general. But the most recent model that they came out with, I believe, debuted some point in late December to mid-January, but they did release it publicly. So it's open source, meaning that anyone can take a look at the results from their most recent report. And what came out of that report from DeepSeek is that there has been this theory out there in AI in general, this hyperscaling theory. Basically, this idea that you need to add more and more data inputs into these models to make them perform better. You need to throw more and more information at them. So think about these models trying to consume every single piece of web page content that's on the internet. The more information that you feed it, the better performing it would be. This required a significant amount of computing power, and this ties back in to Nvidia. Nvidia is behind designing the chips and infrastructure behind AI computing. With this hyperscaling theory, companies were having to spend billions and billions of dollars to scale up their model. When DeepSeek came out, it sort of pushed back that notion because DeepSeek's model performed just as well as some of its competitors' model, like OpenAI is probably the one you hear about most frequently, ChatGPT, which came out in November of 2022. These other models were built on this idea you got to spend a ton of money to make them powerful. And now we sit in a different paradigm shift a bit that indicated that DeepSeek, you may not need to spend as much to scale up these models.
I've been trying for a month and a half to come up with an analogy, and I think I've got it. You tell me, Paul. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be, I think, right in your wheelhouse.
All right, perfect.
It's like
mineral rights.
If you no, we'll come back to that. If you were trying to calculate how many years it took for an investment to double, or equivalently what interest rate you needed for an investment to double in 5 or 10 years, we have a simple rule for that. Right?
Rule 72.
If you didn't know that, you'd have to know how to convert exponents to logarithms and then solve the problem that way using a table if you didn't have a calculator. It doesn't matter what exponents and logarithms are. You've all heard of them, and you remember it from high school, probably the last time, if you're lucky, you ever had to encounter them.
Let me just jump in with the rule of 72 so everyone can be aware of it. The rule of 72 is you take your average annual rate of return and divide it into the number 72. You get how many years it will take for your investment to double. So you get 9% on average every single year. It takes 8 years for your money to double.
Beautiful, right? And you did that in a few seconds in your head. It would take most people 60 seconds on paper or even with a calculator to set the problem up, because you have to either set the problem up in your head and then do the algebra in your head and then plug it into a calculator. My point is, you did it in 5 seconds. It would take me 30 to 60 seconds because I got to set the problem up in my head and then put it into Excel or something to solve. It's a shortcut that gets you the same answer. That's my analogy for what DeepSeek has done.
That.
They took centuries worth, in this case, huge amounts of knowledge that took decades maybe to accumulate, maybe not quite that long in the case of AI, and they were able to do an end run around all of it. The same way you take the rule of 72 to very quickly solve a math problem, they got there faster with a shortcut is how I think about it. Does that analogy work, Paul? Because this is sort of your area. The impact of this on individual stocks. Does that?
I like that. I think that's.
Would you use that analogy? I'm not saying you have to credit me.
I think
would you use that analogy?
It's definitely part of the equation. No question about it. Is that they were able to do it as efficiently as some of these other models by using less information or in a fraction of the time. By using a shortcut. I think that is a reasonable analogy. The other aspect of this is the cost side of things and the infrastructure side, where this model, not only is it open source, which deviates a little bit from some of its U.S. competitors, which are not fully open source. They tend to hold the secrets closer to the vest as to the inner workings of these models, whether it's the one Gemini from Google, Anthropic, which is kind of Amazon-backed, or ChatGPT, which is tied to OpenAI, and also Microsoft by proxy there. This model from DeepSeek was able to run much more cost efficiently, much cheaper to run a performance review on it than its peers out there.
Because of the shortcuts, right? You don't need a lot of computing power to use. I'm going to stick with my analogy because it's taken me so long to come up with one. You don't need a lot of computing power to do the rule of 72.
Right.
You'd need more computing power, some anyway, to do it the old-fashioned way.
So it brings us to our point, when we're talking about computing power, that's where Nvidia has made its bread and butter. It's made a lot of money selling chips and servers and other components in AI infrastructure because of this idea that you needed to spend boatloads of money in order to scale up your AI model. We now have a position where there's a competitor that has emerged that has open source their model and also proven out that they can run the model more cheaply. The infrastructure costs, that has been disputed a little bit. It's still, from analysis that's done out there was still an indication that a lot of money was spent to build this DeepSeek model. It wasn't done. There was rumors initially that it was $6 or $7 million that it cost to build the model. That's not true. That's what it cost to run the model. You compare that to the tens of millions that some of the other competitors would cost. The infrastructure costs are much bigger. We're talking $500 billion. Again, that number come out again. Maybe Mark, everyone's go-to.
It's in
now.
The ether.
It's $500 billion.
Everything's $500 billion these days.
Or perhaps was $500 billion might have been too high. Maybe, sorry, $500 million to $1 billion. That's where the infrastructure costs were. So we sit on the precipice of them coming out with their earnings report, and any commentary that we get to either further that notion that, perhaps DeepSeek is making inroads to some of the competition that Nvidia would face for selling more of its chips, that is all what's going to be under focus today. Not to mention, just in general, you have a lot of companies that are chasing Nvidia because they have tremendous margins. They sell these chips at 80 to 85, 75% margins. And when you have that strong of a margin in an area that is famous for innovation and decreasing costs at a really rapid pace, you're going to have a lot of competitors that are chasing you. So that is really all the backdrop that we have headed in to the close of the market today with Nvidia's earnings report. Like I mentioned, we'll dive into the full details of it tomorrow. Perhaps, I would imagine they're not going to say, oh, we're really screwed. DeepSeek is going to erode our business. But any commentary that they have is going to be useful, and particularly what the sales figures are from their newest chip, the Blackwell. We'll be covering all that.
They actually claim to be indifferent, right? They think, well, we don't care whatever the algorithm, it still needs chips.
Exactly. That has been their
line, right?
Their takeaway is that if you drive down the cost of running models or make it more widely available for everyone to have a model, then that's great. That means mass adoption, and that means that they can continue to sell more chips to more companies that try to either use models or try to build their own. So that's their argument there. But you would imagine that would drive down perhaps some of the margin power that they have. If everyone's using it, then you'd think maybe they would see a little bit of drop in margins there. But we'll have to see. We're going to be covering it, like I said, on tomorrow's show. Nvidia's earnings coming out at 4 o'clock today. Taking a look at the stock in terms of how it's trading so far today, it is up about 5% through the first hour and a half or close to 2 hours of trading. So we'll see how it fares over the course of the rest of the show here. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to be doing trivia as well as a little bit more talk on GM and American workers that their skepticism on AI if it will help them on their job. That's right after this break.
Breaking business news as it happens, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Understanding the costs of Medicare can be complicated. Hi, this is Chuck Zada from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Medicare was originally a 2-part program, but is now 4 parts, and making sure you know what you're eligible for and how much you'll need to pay is key to having the right healthcare coverage as you get older. Medicare is divided among parts A, B, C, and D, all of which have different premiums, deductibles, and coinsurance. Our new guide called Understanding Medicare, Essential Questions Answered, can help you learn about these issues and others, such as whether Medicare pays for long-term care. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group at 800-393-4001 and request your free guide today so you can determine which plan works best for you. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025. If you're nearing retirement age and are concerned about how to protect your assets, you need to call Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law. Their new guide is called Back to the Basics, and it will help you create a plan that will help you understand issues like avoiding probate, passing your assets along to your family, and potentially eliminating your estate taxes. This free guide has all the information you need to build a safe and secure estate plan that will give you peace of mind as you close in on retirement. Call 866-848-5699 right now and request your free guide today. You can also request a no-obligation consultation to review any current planning you've done. Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for 30 years. Let them help you, too. Get their new guide called Back to the Basics today. Call 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The
Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. By making a donation, you can support the Veteran Advancement Program, which offers permanent and transitional affordable housing to veterans and their dependents. The DAV of Massachusetts is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for single vets and those with families. Visit DAV5K.Boston to make a donation today, and make note for this year's 5K to be held on Saturday, November 8th. That's DAV5K.Boston. Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange. And on this day, back in 1983, Michael Jackson's album Thriller hit number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. The title track Thriller became one of the biggest songs and music videos of all time. Trivia question today: which rock and roll legend played guitar on Michael Jackson's hit song Thriller? Once again, which rock and roll legend played guitar on Michael Jackson's hit song Thriller? Be the 8th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the 8th correct response to text us at 617-362-1385 will get that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
A little more chatter here on artificial intelligence. It's been a little over 2 years since ChatGPT was released out to the public in November of 2022. There was a recent survey that was done by the Pew Research Center in which they tried to gauge what Americans felt in terms of AI and its benefits. And about 80% of Americans stated that they don't use any type of artificial intelligence at work, and the ones that do aren't bowled over by its benefits. And so I think that is a fair point to make. As much as it is a extraordinary technology, the business case uses aren't articulated well enough across multiple industries. I'm sure that there's industries out there, and if anyone has any work experience with this, text us at 617-362-1385. I do have, family, friends, and things like that work in the tech sector that are saying that they're using it and it is beneficial. This particular, uncle that I'm speaking of was previously at Broadcom and now works at some startups, so he's very much kind of tied to the sector, and those could be the first adopters where you have a bank or a financial institution. I don't mean to call us stodgy and slow to, uptake technology, but typically it is some of these other more legacy businesses that take longer to adopt this type of new technology.
You wouldn't necessarily know the software that you're using is being augmented by AI.
Right.
Even Microsoft is starting to integrate some features which
Salesforce, which is our client relationship management software that we use here, is trying to integrate some
so it's pretty subtle.
Yep.
So it's not like it's going to, jump off the screen and do your job for you. So maybe software manufacturers have to do a better job of explaining where things are AI augmented and how it can improve time spent in workflow and stuff like that. I every time this comes up, I have to complain about Microsoft Office, which to me mostly feels like it felt in the mid-90s, building a PowerPoint, taking charts you've built somewhere else, but I don't want to get too into the details here.
Your daily
really,
grind.
even to me, it's really boring, so I can't imagine how it sounds to you. But, geez, does it have to be so hard to format a PowerPoint when you're bringing in charts from a different software program, Excel or something else? It's so darn manual. It has been forever. Microsoft Excel can also be infuriating to work with. So I look forward to the day when tasks that I would describe as menial can be better automated. That will result in, obviously, some job destruction, but presumably more productivity and hopefully more job creation on the other side.
That's the idea behind it. That's certainly the case.
But it's not going to add, there are projections that it could add as much as 0 to a few tenths to maybe a full percentage point to productivity growth, like Goldman Sachs economists are on the optimistic end of that spectrum. And it's hard to say whether or not that will result in an economic golden age, to use a phrase that's become popular over the past month and a half or so, because we don't know what you're starting with. Productivity could be slated to slow down. It tends to mysteriously go trend up and down. So will it result in higher standards of living for everybody? Hard to say, Paul.
GM boosts its investor payout with new buybacks and a dividend hike. GM Motors authorized a $6 billion buyback of shares. It also raised its dividend by, I believe, 25% or so. So they're really focusing on returning cash flow to shareholders. There was no real indication just yet as to how the potential upcoming looming tariffs would impact the business. I mean, certainly GM executives have been on the record before with their frustration regarding the uncertainty in Washington as to whether or not the tariffs were going into effect or not. But the where we sit today is effective March 4th, I believe, on Monday of was it March 1st or March 4th that the tariffs were coming in?
I don't know.
So March 4th, basically next week, the tariffs are going to effect on Mexico and Canada. That's the cut and dry of it.
What are your what do you think the odds are of them actually taking effect?
Oh gosh,
because we've been teased a couple times at least now with this.
I'm going to believe this is.
Do you think
I'm
they
gonna
will?
believe they're going to go into effect?
You don't even have to put a number on it, but is he?
They'll go into effect. My question would be how
long?
Yeah,
okay, right. more than 12
I wouldn't
hours.
be willing to bet. I wouldn't be willing to bet over 3 months that they're in for any. I wouldn't be able to lay any. I wouldn't want to lay any money on that. That they would be in longer than 3 months. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm with you. I have no idea what to expect. I tend to think that at the end of the day, they're going to steer the car away in this game of chicken that they seem to like to play. Arguably, the damage, though, has already been done with inflation expectations going up, that contributing to spooking equity prices. Uncertainty itself is damaging, even if the fears aren't realized, is my point.
To be determined, right? We're going to see what we get out of the next couple reports on the inflationary front. But you're right, the expectations have been raised. GM has about 5 assembly plants that are heavily exposed and integrated through the North American auto parts supply chain. So this would have a tremendous impact on them. Canada and Mexico are really critical in the manufacturing process of their vehicles. So the stock is doing pretty well today on the news of the buybacks and increased dividend. The stock's up about 5.6% in early trading here. We're going to take a quick break here on the Financial Exchange. When we come back, we're going to be having our answer to the trivia question as well as the boycott on Tesla right after this.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline Qualification Line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Medicare provides health coverage for millions of Americans, but it's a challenging program. Being aware of its many complexities is crucial to your healthcare plans for later life. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our new guide is called Understanding Medicare: Essential Questions Answered. In it, we'll help you learn about the basics, including enrollment periods, costs, and coverage options, as well as more complicated issues like filing claims and appeals and planning for long-term care. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and request your free guide today. There are many resources available to help you understand your options and rights under Medicare. Ask for our free guide and learn more so that you can make the most informed decisions for your health care. And you can get it by calling 800-393-4001. Again, that number is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S.
U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about the basics of estate planning. Todd, Massachusetts recently raised their estate tax exemption to $2 million. Do people still have to plan?
Yes, a simple answer is yes, but let's think about it from a back to the basics standpoint, right? Some people think they don't even need a will, or if they have a will, that's all they need. First, I want you to know that a will is a won't. It won't avoid probate. It won't help you reduce estate taxes, which we're talking about. It won't help you protect assets from the nursing home, so it won't do a lot. So a will is really a won't, so please don't stop with a will. The reason you need to do a trust is this new exemption that you speak of went from $1 million to $2 million. So now with a trust, you are able to double that exemption by being a married couple and having a trust in place. You can shelter $2 million on the first death and $2 million on the second death to shelter $4 million. But you need a trust to do it. And while the exemption went up, which is good news, the cost of not planning just doubled. So very important to get your trusts in place.
Learn how you can avoid probate, eliminate estate taxes, keep your money in your family, and protect your assets from the nursing home. Request this brand new guide from Cushing & Dolan. It's called Back to the Basics. Call 866-848-5699 or visit LegalExchangeShow.com to request it. Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years. Once again, the phone number 866-848-5699 or request it from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, which rock and roll legend played guitar on Michael Jackson's hit song Thriller? That would be Eddie Van Halen. Winner today of the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt was Ward from Cranston, Rhode Island. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Piece here from Bloomberg. Tesla feels the wrath of anti-Elon Musk backlash out there. We have seen throughout Europe where Tesla sales plunged about 45% last month. In the month of January in Europe, Tesla sold 9,945 cars. That is off almost 50% from where it was a year ago, where that same figure was 18,161 cars. To give a broader sense, not just specific to Europe, but where Tesla's U.S. vehicle sales have been over the course of the last couple of years, if we look at 2022, they sold 1.3 million vehicles. 2023, it jumped up to 1.8 million. But last year in 2024 is the first year that we saw a sales decline out of Tesla, where they only sold 1.789 vehicles, a drop of close to 1%. If you look back over prior years, they were increasing their numbers of vehicles sold by significant percentages here. So to see a 1% decline was significant. And here we have a very controversial figure at the forefront of U.S. politics, and it could be impactful to Tesla.
He's
sales.
meddling elsewhere. This is just the most baffling business decision.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even need to be said that he's got a right to his opinions.
Of
Some of
course.
them strike me as a little outlandish. Like, Germany needs more Nazis. No one's ever said that. Gee, what an interesting, innovative, what a refreshingly different opinion that Elon Musk seems to have about Nazis in the German government, or seemingly reformed Nazis. And I'm not making this up. It's true. Michael Jordan said in the midst of a heated 1994 Senate campaign, Jesse Helms, former segregationist, Republican from North Carolina, was running for re-election. I forget who he was running against. Jordan was encouraged to take a stand, and you know what he said.
Democrats buy shoes. Or Republicans buy shoes as well.
Yeah.
Right. Basketball shoes, too.
Since then, that's sort of been the rule that level-headed business people follow. It seems to me like he could be committing, Elon Musk, now this is not my area, and this is probably a little over the top, but is he committing business suicide here? Does he know who buys EVs? It ain't people in red states. Does he know where the preponderance of the GDP is produced? It's in blue states, like 70% of it. Also something that can be easily verified if you doubt it. So he's alienating a broad swath of people, number one, but most of the GDP, a broad swath of not just any people, but people with, on average, higher incomes. They don't buy as many EVs per capita in, say, the Deep South, which tends to be solidly red. From what point of view do his recent antics make sense, other than maybe personal conviction?
In California, Tesla's sales fell 12% last year, so kind of pointing to your point of the blue states, where that is
here
a big area of where you sell your vehicles. Yeah,
I would be disinclined to something as conspicuous as a car or an item of clothing that became associated with a brand, that became associated with a person with very strong political views. I would shy away from, even if they were mine. I don't ask if some manufacturer has a libertarian CEO and then walk around with all their merch conspicuously displayed. It seems like an unseemly thing to do. I just don't understand from what point of view any of this makes sense. Again, other than he's just got this very deep conviction.
It'll be interesting to see what Tesla's sales trends over the course of the next couple quarters here.
Down.
The calendar has turned and the cold is here to stay, so now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visit usvi.com and code VIBE2025.
A little bit more on Elon Musk.
Nice.
The DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, deleted 5 of its biggest spending cuts it celebrated last week. Initially, the savings claims year-to-date were increased to about $65 billion, but the top 5 of those savings were removed from the site early hours of Tuesday, as there were some media outlets that had pointed that the cut savings lists were riddled with errors. So,
like every media outlet looked at them, it didn't even take them that long to find that actual savings, when properly tallied, were a fraction of the 55, or now it's, I guess, $65 billion that are claimed. A little bit embarrassing.
The New York Times goes on in this piece here to say that these were the 5 largest savings cuts on the list. $8 billion cut to the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, 3 $655 million cuts at the U.S. Agency for International Development, and a $232 million cut at the Social Security Administration. You know, you can look through the details of the New York Times piece as they go into specifics as to why there were some questions on those figures. Those were some of the largest ones in question there on the cost.
I'm on the website now, DOGE.com. They're still making the claim that estimated savings are $65 billion. Good luck trying to make now. By the way, just for context, I support shrinking the federal government a lot more dramatically than most. I'd cut it by 50% and not apologize. It's bloated. Mm-hmm. It's probably a drag on the economy. It certainly infringes on individual liberties. There's my little libertarian rant. But you can't make heads or tails out of this website. If you produced anything like this for a middle manager anywhere in the country, they would show you the door. You can't total things. You can't download. Independently verifying the stuff, as the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and New York Times did, took hours and hours of a team of experienced journalists, and they aren't even sure of what they came up with, other than that the savings here are vastly overstated. It just doesn't instill a lot of confidence. Hopefully Congress can do better.
Bigger picture, we run a $2 trillion deficit every single year in terms of our budget. So I want to reinforce that for listeners out there, that when we're talking about whether it's 55 or 65 billion, these cuts are very small in relative to what we spend on the deficit that we incur on an annual basis. So I'm not here to say, I haven't done the research that these other media outlets have done. I'm not here to say whether it's one number or another. But bottom line, I'm in agreement. We absolutely need to get the deficit under control. The amount of debt in this country has run off the rails. So I support similarly those steps. But it's hard if you're not going to touch 2/3 of the budget, which is Social Security benefits, Medicare, and military. I guess there's been some rumors that perhaps there'd be some adjustments on military spending, but it's challenging to make significant inroads, and we'll continue to see what type of progress that they're able to make on the cost.
Okay, so instead of just dumping on DOGE, which I have, the intentions are good. Let's look at the deficit a year from now, 2 years from now. If it's smaller, all things considered, this administration will have done a good job. Maybe they don't get to 3% of GDP as they claim to want to, but we'll give them credit for that. If it's bigger than the roughly 6% of GDP that it represented last year, that's just the value of the deficit divided by the total output of the nation's goods and services, then they will be subject to some justified criticism.
Yep. We're going to take a quick break here on the Financial Exchange. When we come back, a little bit of Stack Roulette right after this.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Oh, what a night. Join me on Sunday, March 2nd for the 29th Annual Ellie Fund Red Carpet Gala at the Omni Boston Seaport Hotel. Hi, this is Candy O'Terry, honored to accept the Ellie Fund's Ellie Popkin Award with WCVB's Karen Holmes Ward from this beloved nonprofit devoted to breast cancer patients and their families. EllieFund.org, that's EllieFund.org, and don't forget to wear pink.
The calendar is turned and the cold is here to stay. So now's the perfect time to plan that getaway to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act now and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025. If you're nearing retirement age and are concerned about how to protect your assets, you need to call Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law. Their new guide is called Back to the Basics, and it will help you create a plan that will help you understand issues like avoiding probate, passing your assets along to your family, and potentially eliminating your estate taxes. This free guide has all the information you need to build a safe and secure estate plan that will give you peace of mind as you close in on retirement. Call 866-848-5699 right now and request your free guide today. You can also request a no-obligation consultation to review any current planning you've done. Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for 30 years. Let them help you too. Get their new guide called Back to the Basics today. Call 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, time for a little bit of stack roulette. Mark, I'll let you bat lead off here.
We all know, Paul, that the price of eggs is about $8 a dozen on average nationally, up nearly 4 times from last fall. Part of that is due to the obvious reason of having to cull a big part of the production herd or flock or whatever they call it. New York Times, naturally, is raising questions, though, about whether a lack of competition in the egg market might be responsible. As it turns out, I didn't know this, they report only 5 firms. 5 firms control about 50% of the market nationally. So that immediately raises some people's suspicions about the possibility of collusion or anti-competitive behavior. And to this point, Federal Trade Commission, the entity that's responsible for enforcing our antitrust laws, has not indicated that an investigation is underway. But if these rises persist, you can expect politicians to step up their search, I guess, for a scapegoat. But again, what I found interesting here is that just a handful of, maybe I shouldn't, but there's been a lot of consolidation, and just a handful, up from a few dozen only a few decades ago, control nearly the majority of the country's egg production.
Those, just looking at year-over-year difference, it is really stark. I mean, to be at $8 a dozen from $2.25 last fall.
But relatedly, you've made a point.
Yeah, well, one company that's not going to let the egg spoil its breakfast is McDonald's. McDonald's is saying that it's going to spare customers an egg surcharge. I believe that Waffle House was in the position where they were levying a surcharge on eggs, but McDonald's has gone the other direction, and in fact, they're going to launch a one-day offer on the McMuffin sandwich to have it just be for $1. The discount is celebrating 50 years of breakfast menu items and arrives right on a timely spot where U.S. egg prices are at record highs. So I think from a marketing perspective, my 2 cents on this is that phenomenal move by McDonald's to go out there and attack something that is under a tremendous amount of scrutiny and frustration for a lot of American consumers out there. What better way way to sort of entice people into your stores by offering a reasonable deal when egg prices are running out of control. So,
yeah, a great way to turn
move.
a negative story into maybe a lot of positive publicity and generate some goodwill.
For those people out there eager to hit up that deal, the McMuffin deal will be available to users of the McDonald's app on March 2nd. So what is that next?
Yeah, it's not. I checked, of
Sunday.
course. It's not. I was going to go out and get it today, but no, I wouldn't. Not out there yet.
Not out there yet. It will be available, it sounds like, this upcoming Sunday. Another piece here from the Wall Street Journal. The investor who won big on zombie malls is now going all in on empty offices. I was wondering if someone was going to take this stance. We know that malls had been under a tremendous amount of valuation scrutiny as the Sears and other major department stores were closing up shop because of inroads made by Amazon and other e-commerce companies out there. The need for, thousands or hundreds of thousands of square feet at a mall just wasn't the same sort of appeal. So there was this New York-based company, Namdar, that had acquired a significant amount of zombie malls out there, cut costs down significantly, and had done pretty well with the strategy. They've now tried to pivot to office space. Office space has been another area of commercial real estate that has just been demolished since the pandemic, where many people are working remotely, though there has been a little bit of change in posture on some of the major companies out there, whether you look at Amazon or JP Morgan, that are starting to focus on bringing people back to the office, not always having the space to do it, but they're at least trying to get more people back in the office. So this New York-based company, it bought 10 buildings for more than $480 million beginning in 2021, and the results have been rather mixed. I'm not saying that the Wall Street Journal rather is not reporting that they're knocking the cover off the ball. For example, one of the office buildings that it had purchased down in Manhattan by Madison Square Garden was on 345 7th Avenue, and they were under the impression that it was going to be rezoned to be, instead of office, converted into residential for multifamily units. That didn't go through, and as a result of that, they had to sell 4 of their buildings that they bought on 7th Avenue in late 2024 at a $42 million loss. So I'm just interested in the strategy of it. It's something that potentially could be a long-term benefit, but they're running into a lot of issues with unions and their work on these office buildings that they didn't have to battle with malls. But an interesting strategy nonetheless on the real estate side for someone perhaps they will benefit from buying some of these office buildings at depressed levels.
They committed over $100 million on a rumor that the city was going to be changing its property zoning? A rumor?
Must have been a really strong rumor to put up that amount of money there. It's interesting. Some of the nicer office space, though, if you look at the commercial real estate market on office specifically, like the A+ space or the really strong office space out there from a location perspective, that has rallied back quite a bit. But the problem with some of their purchases is that they were buying buildings in good locations, but very old buildings, and those just are not doing as well. If you want to get people to come back to office, they are looking for more modern amenities.
If you gut them, can you get rid of that 70s musty smell? You ever been in like an old law office in Manhattan or something? Everything's paneled and there are secret doors. Very cool. But they smell. It's not a bad smell, but it's distinctive. Do you think gutting it gets? I know I'm putting you on the spot again with a Chuck Zada type question here. That's somewhat rhetorical, somewhat playful. But yeah, I don't know that I could live with that. It's probably just the paneling and the carpeting. Once you get it down to the studs, you don't have that issue.
Lowe's came out with its earnings, beating Wall Street expectations as they, similar to Home Depot, broke a 8 consecutive quarter of decline in same-store sales. They finally saw a positive uptick on their same-sales stores metric out there. Some of that was aided by some of the hurricanes that we had experienced over the course of the last quarter that they're reporting on. In general, the themes from the piece here on Lowe's earnings was similar to what we heard from Home Depot, where the American consumer has really put a pause on any major renovation efforts out there because of interest rates and all the things on the affordability side. No sense just this yet as to what tariffs would impact on Lowe's future earnings. Obviously that they have some exposure in terms of importing lumber from Canada and things like that. So the stock in early trading, I believe, was up on this most recent earnings report here. Let's just take a look to see how they're faring. I believe they were up about 4 or 5%. They are up about 4% or so.
Paul, it looks like Elon didn't hear our criticism about cozying up too much to a current political regime and how that might be bad for business, because he appears to be chairing Trump's cabinet meeting, which is being broadcast live.
I just wonder how he has
very cool that they're broadcasting this, by the way. I don't know that I've ever seen a cabinet meeting broadcast live.
I just don't understand how he has enough time in the day to run Tesla, to be involved with SpaceX, and also to be reworking the spending of the U.S. government.
And if you paid that much for such a great head of hair, which I'm very envious of, wouldn't you flaunt it? Why is he wearing the cap all the time? Why is he hiding that magnificent scientific advancement that is his head of hair?
We're not going to be able to answer that question. That's all the time that's all the time that we have for this edition of the Financial Exchange. We'll be right back at it tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll have Nvidia's earnings and much more. Thanks so much for joining us.